Hello, 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 hello. Thank you for your patience for everyone who was here a little bit early. Um, we are figuring shit out as we go along. So thank you for being here along with our process. Welcome to the Magical Cartographers, part two. This is our second discussion. The first we had over on Clubhouse. And heads up to everybody, Clubhouse is now officially on Android as of today. Yay, I already downloaded it on my phone. It is working. There's only one thing that I'm finding so far that I don't see on there that I noticed from iOS, but so we may again be utilizing Clubhouse. If anyone is interested that needs an invite, let us know when that happens. But we wanted to continue our discussions, us as a group, and we are missing one of our magical cartographers. Ish will be with us. I'm sure soon. She's a doctor, so they always got stuff going on.
I just got her the link, so she should be here in a minute.
Okay, I thought I saw her already. So, but yeah, so what our goal, and ladies, you certainly can chime in here, was to have some real conversations beyond like the BS that seems to be, at least in my world, pervading the spaces, right? About everything, right? Like we all had this lengthy discussion about like burning shit down and starting over again. And a lot of that had to do with really finding ways to co-create with other people in really meaningful ways, right? Having like discussions that aren't about how can I make $1 million and how can I, like all the stuff that we've been taught that we have to do. And so that led in nicely to where we are today and talking about self-care and all of the bubblegum and rainbows around what self-care is. And that self-care is not just about taking lengthy bubble baths every 2 weeks, and that's all that we should expect. So that's my segue in for today. I'm Mel Morris. I am the owner and chief magic officer over at WTF with Mel. And our other cartographers, the other two are here. Ladies, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Jocelyn, are you good?
Sure, I'm good.
Okay.
So I'm Jocelyn Lindsey, and I'm a book coach. I work with writers who have a really hard time with self-care because most writers spend all of their time in their heads, and it's they think of their body as the vehicle through which their brains travel around and experience the world. And so I have to keep reminding my writers all the time about self-care and all the things. And bubble baths are just the tip of the iceberg for self-care.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Awesome. What about you, KJ?
Oh, hello, my lovely. My name is KJ, and I am a psychotherapist and a musician, and no longer undercover because I always hid it, artist. And so I am revealing all of that, and I am doing that by having conversations like this and working with amazing people, many of whom are in this Zoom room right now. And so I feel like, I was telling the ladies earlier, I feel like I could actually go back and rewrite my master's thesis on what self-compassion and self-care really means. And it is beyond the bath bombs. It is beyond bubble baths, while nice, and massages, nice. Can we talk about boundary setting? And can we talk about asking ourselves the questions that we've been maybe avoiding all of our for a long period of time? And that the secret around really encompassing true self-compassion is actually having those conversations and opening up the channels again. for things that we've fragmented or hid away or we don't put a lot of time into. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And there she is, the lovely Ish.
Miss America.
Yes,
Or
thank you
Mrs.
so
America.
much for making time for us. I know,
Yes.
you know, I was telling people like,
I'm
you're a
very
doctor, like
technically
shit happens,
challenged.
right?
I'm
So
very technically challenged today.
you
no,
know
babe.
what? Tis the season.
We got you,
Ish,
friend.
tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, so who am I? I am a physician. I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. Uh, I am a mindful teacher. I'm all sorts of things. And, why I love this conversation and having this conversation is that it is, I think, in the work that I do as a physician, and the stress that's going on with everybody, but especially for women for generations, it's always like, oh, take a break, go, go have that bubble bath, do a little yoga, this, that, or the other. And it's great for a moment. It's not bad things. And we certainly need to have some indulgent time. But self-care is so much more than that. It is about, and I'm going to piggyback onto what KJ said. It starts with this self and all things self-compassion, self-love, self-freedom, setting those boundaries, knowing who you are. So part of self-care is really understanding who we are when we're coming up against, when we get stressed, part of it is because it goes against our values. Like when we're annoyed at things or we're like, something's not right, it's because it's pushing up against a value system, and we need to honor our value system in order to really take care of ourselves. And that gets us into so many things. And we are, the conversation for me always keeps coming back to what has been imposed on us, culturally, society, with work. And so that's where I come from this at, is that you have to find time to give yourself the space to really know that about yourself, so you know what things you need to do to take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry for the distraction. I'm totally listening to everyone. I just wanted to make sure I was checking in with our Facebook folks, letting them know if they wanted to join us over here in Zoom. They absolutely could, or submit questions online if they wanted to do that as well. So,
By the way,
yeah.
Mel, that green is gorgeous on you.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what's funny is I wear this shirt all the time, but this is the first time it actually looks green. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I don't recall you wearing this shirt all the time. So,
I don't know
first
what's
time you've worn
happening.
it around me.
Yes. No, you trust me. You've seen this shirt before. But yes, I
Okay.
was thinking the same thing, like, okay, green, show up today. So let's see. So what I want to do is, first I want to say that today is the new moon in Taurus, which is, I mean, literally about self-care, right? About the physical body, especially, I'm going to say physical in the sense of on the planet. I don't know the phrase I'm looking for, but physical, mental, emotional, like as an individual, self-care, right? So the universe lined this up perfectly for us. We couldn't have picked a better day to do this. And, just briefly, new moons are all about setting new intentions, right? Setting new goals for ourselves. And I think that, again, that ties in so perfectly with, the need for actual self-care as the way I see it, as more of a plan, right? More of an opportunity to think about not just today or not just in the moment of what self-care needs to look like. And so you know, one of the things that I've heard from a few different sources today and yesterday about this energy right now, and I certainly can feel it, is very much about, I don't want to say not doing shit. I'm going to say not doing shit that you don't want to, right? And for me, that's maybe number one on the self-care scale, is stop doing shit you don't really want to do. Now, I mean, there's always things, right? There's things you got to do. But we spend so much time doing what other people expect of us, what other people want from us, that it zaps our energy, right? It takes all of the energy for us to just to keep up with what everybody else wants, that it can be so difficult to then have enough time for ourselves to do anything else. So for me, I will say self-care, one of the things self-care looks like for me, beyond just taking a bubble bath, which I mentioned to KJ, I am not a fan of bubble baths, mainly because I've never had a tub that is big enough for both my legs and my boobs to be submerged. It's like one or the other, right? So that's why I am not personally a bubble bath fan.
And see, already in self-care, you're having to make decisions.
That's right.
Right. So something's
not
cold
all?
the time, right? So
Amen.
yeah.
I
So
say legs and boobs.
right. So for me, that is one of the things that, you know, is important for me as far as self-care is concerned, is about being able to say no, being able to really, you know, KJ, you mentioned, you know, boundary setting, and being able to do the things that really like bring me joy, right? That aren't just, okay, I gotta do more of this, I gotta write some more copy, I gotta do, you know, blah, 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 blah. It really can be like, I really want to spend so much of my energy on things that just light me on fire. That I want to be exhausted from joy. Like, doesn't that seem amazing? Like, don't you want to be exhausted from joy? So that's,
Yeah, I
so
don't think
that's
we
my
think
number
of it.
one. Yeah.
I don't think we think of it that way.
No,
You
no.
know, I want to, can I make a comment about what you
Please.
said about doing, you know, doing things that other people want us to do and not being able to say no. So Jocelyn knows this because she's my guinea pig. I love that she will like let me experiment. So I've been really delving into human design, and what's really interesting is, you know, on the surface level, if people know about human design, there are these things. People are based off of the time that they were born. There's so much that goes into it, but they can be generators, manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors. What is the other one that I cannot think of at this point? Anyways, when you delve really into, you get this, there's this body graph and it's got all of these symbols on it. When you delve into this, it's really interesting because at the very top of this body graph is this triangle, which represents the head. And for 70% of us, it's like open. And what open means is that you really take in the energy from people around you, you amplify it. And so if you're not aware of that, we end up putting ourselves in this position of really doing things that everybody else wants us to do because it's the idea and inspiration center. Mm-hmm. So we're taking all of that idea and inspiration from everybody else. And then we can, so Jocelyn and I are you a generator, Mel? I can't remember because I know KJ. So we're all generators. So we get all of this energy.
Not a coincidence, I'm sure.
Yeah, our sacral area. And so if we're using that energy for things that we don't really want to do because we're responding to the wrong thing, then boom, we've just like, you know, that we're not taking care of ourselves because we haven't understood that. And so I point that out, not because I want to get into this huge discussion about human design, because there's so many other things out there like the Enneagram and what you do, Mel, tarot, that can help us really understand ourselves. And it's really got to resonate with people. But it just really underscores for me how that is the biggest thing about self-care, is really knowing where our energy comes from, and what we are ultimately giving away to other people without even realizing it.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
Can I, oh, go ahead, KJ.
No, please, Jocelyn. Go for it.
Well, I kind of tapping back into this. One of the things back to what you said, Mel, and tying off on what, or directing off on what you said, Ish, and I see this a lot with writers and artists and creatives, is it's not just what is imposed on us from the outside, it's also what we impose on ourselves.
Yep.
And especially with the writers, there's a atmosphere or an environment of let's all celebrate our failures because artists must struggle. Artists must, you know, the whole idea that the artist has to suffer to create the art. And if you're not suffering and you're not struggling, then you're doing it wrong. And so I think there becomes this environment, the societal pressure to not be celebrating and not be exhausted from joy, because when everybody around you is suffering or struggling, you don't want to be the person who's, you know, in joy, and it's much harder to be in joy. And I see it happen. That's much easier to commiserate than it is to celebrate. And there's that sense with writers that if you're doing, you know, if you're doing well, I can't do well, that whole scarcity mindset that even feeds into this idea of self-care. And so we don't want to care for ourselves because then we're not struggling.
Right. Yeah. And as a mom, that's, I mean, 100% of the lie too, right? Like, you know, we're not supposed to have time for joy
for the bubble
on
bath
a regular basis, or bubble baths with cold tits. But yes, because we're supposed to be parenting, right? And that's like work and dedication, right? And yes, you love your kids, and yes, it's beautiful. But any, you know, of these like mom bloggers and stuff, I mean, most of the conversation, and rightly so, is about like the struggle, because the struggle is real, you know, but it's almost like I can't talk about the good stuff because then I must be parenting wrong. Right.
I can't talk about the writing and the success of writing because then somebody's going to be pissed at me because now I'm having success.
Right. Yeah. And KJ, I want you to go ahead. I just wanted to acknowledge some folks over on Facebook that are watching with us. I want to say hey to Becca and Ildelise. So good to see you. Hey, Carrie, and let me know who else is here. We've got some other ladies. You can sort of see them, I think, on the live in the group. There is a question that I'll jump to right after KJ.
Oh, thanks. I was actually just going to bring some attention to, it sort of opened up the conversation here a little bit more. Fawn had said something in here in the chat that actually is interesting, because we have to almost ask, is this okay? Can I call watching a little bit of TV, even because I like it? Is that self-care?
Yeah.
And so my answer was, that's a great question, because we're carrying around this heavy burden of judgment or fear of actually, I don't know, is it looking like that we're rebelling against or stepping out of like this feminine narrative that we have to sacrifice everything and that it has to be this suffering, as Jocelyn had said, and these expectations. And so my answer is just like, if you like to watch some TV, and that replenishes
watch some TV.
Yeah. And definitely anybody that's here in the room, I mean, you're welcome to chime in, you know, as well. We're just, as generators, we're just going to talk. Like we could just talk for 24 hours and be told. So feel free, like, to go ahead and that's really why we wanted to have this open space, is so people could chime in and be a part of the conversation too. But yeah, so I want to make sure that, you know, for Fawn and, you know, folks online that, yeah, I mean, I think all those, I watch a lot of television and I don't feel bad about it at all.
Netflix binges.
Listen,
that's
I have all the channels, right? I mean, don't tell HBO, but I've been giving out my HBO Max code, like login, because I want people to watch this show called Exterminate All the Brutes, which is incredible. I won't go into it now because that will take me down a dark spiral. But if you haven't watched it and you have HBO Max, watch it. If not, let me know. I'll give you my login. But I do. I mean, I think that, you know, I do enjoy watching television. Unfortunately, I watch a lot of like really kind of dark television, so it doesn't necessarily bring me joy per se, but I enjoy doing it. And when I'm not working, if that's the thing I want to do, then I shouldn't feel bad, Fawn. You shouldn't feel bad. Like, yeah, I'm binge watching season whatever of whatever, because that's what I want to do right now.
Yeah. Self-care should not be suffering.
No,
I mean, it should not be
absolutely
the
not.
oppression that we're talking. Yeah. No, yeah.
And sometimes self-care is about, you know, knowing that you have to have a way to step away and
Mhm.
have an escape route. And sometimes it is TV, or sometimes it's music. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I spend a lot of time listening to music as well. So,
Mhm.
and I think that's like, maybe it's a myth that we can, you know, sort of, you know, delve into a little bit more. But self-care isn't always about necessarily making ourselves feel better or making a situation go away or feel
Right.
better. It's just about knowing that you need that space between
Mhm.
whatever is going on. And so that, and again, just going back to, how do you regenerate? How do you get that energy back? How do you feel less stressed? So I'm always talking about we always talk about the sympathetic system, and I'm always talking about the parasympathetic system. And
Mhm.
sometimes, honestly, for me, like watching Netflix is just re-invoking my parasympathetic system in a way. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get back and,
Mhm.
you know, into whatever it is that I need to get back into, and do that. And so, you know, I see a lot of people who, you know, have had hobbies earlier on before kids, you know, women
Mhm.
especially, and the kids happen, everything goes out the door and it's all about the kids, which is wonderful. I have two girls and it's certainly all about them. But then, you know, what happens to those hobbies? And then there's not
Right.
time. And so
Right.
it's really getting back to that. So self-care is also like, if you, so I knit sometimes. And so I'm just going to, you know, I'm like an old soul, I feel like. So, you know, if it's
You
knitting,
find
getting
out
back
I need a
into,
scarf from you ish.
yeah, that's going to be I didn't say I was a great knitter. I
I
just
mean, okay.
knit.
I didn't say I needed a great scarf. I
You
mean,
just, I don't know. So if
I want to support your self-care.
so, but it's, you know, it's doing things like whatever that, you know, whatever that is. And yeah, I think it's, again, now I'm going to say this because for some people, taking a bubble bath may be what it is for them.
Right.
That's okay. I don't want it to be like, don't do that.
Right. We don't,
But
yes, we're not anti-bubble bath.
yeah, but
We're not canceling bubble baths.
No.
yeah,
No.
but from my position as a physician, I hear a lot of people who will say, you know, please don't tell me to go do a bubble bath, or please don't tell me to go do yoga or whatnot.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, well, what is it that you
Right. What's the
like
thing?
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And I think that, you know, for me, you know, that's really the key, right? So, I mean, there are lots of things people can tell you. I mean, certainly us in the room, yes, I'm always going to tell people like meditation is wonderful, right? That there's 100 types of meditation. There's a meditation out there that you would enjoy if you found it, but that's not for everybody, right? And that's not the solution to it all. You know, I mean, sometimes for me, turning off the TV, right, especially the news, which I can get inundated with as a Black woman in America, I mean, always, but especially now, sometimes my self-care is like, girl, no, turn the TV off.
Mhm.
No, we
Mhm.
don't want to watch one more minute of the news, because it's not going to bring me joy, right?
Mhm.
And again, knowing that I have the ability, I have the right to do that, um, you know, is really important. And I think more than anything, creating a practice is, I guess, the message that I kind of wanted to, from my perspective, that I wanted to get to people, is that to me, self-care has to be, if it's a bubble bath, it can't just be like a once in a blue moon. Oh yeah, I remember I have this tub and these bubble baths, these salts or whatever that someone gave me on Mother's Day 5 years ago, right? That it's something that you're doing, that you make a point of doing consistently, right? That you are reminding yourself, maybe it's even putting it on your calendar, that you're giving yourself time every day to do whatever it is that makes you feel good, that helps you unwind or relax, any of those things. Ildelise had said on Facebook, resetting your mind, your body and spirit, whatever you can do consistently
Mm-hmm.
to do those things, to reset yourself. To me, that's self-care, right? Beyond just the fluffy stuff.
And don't you think part of
Absolutely.
and don't you think part of that self-care is not just every year I'm going to go to Mexico? I mean, I think we fall into that as
Right.
well. I get 1 week off for self-care, and the other 51 weeks a year I've got to be, struggling and
Hustling.
yeah.
We're all hustling,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Especially if
Grinding,
you're a
hustling.
woman and you're doing the
Exactly.
thing that you really want to do and that's not your full-time job, it's a hustle.
It's a hustle. Exactly. We have to be, even as entrepreneurs, we fall into that.
Yeah, we
Oh,
do.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
maybe it's even worse because it's like, well, I have to get this out by Monday, so I'm going to work Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that hustle, that grind culture
Yeah.
that just keeps us, that corporate, we've talked about this before, that
Yeah.
perpetuation of a corporate culture, even in our own entrepreneurial spaces.
Right.
Mhm.
And I mean, obviously, we all identify as female in our magical cartographer group, but I mean, certainly this applies to men too, right? I mean, I don't want men to be like, "Ah, these chicks and their drama." First of all, if you say that to my face, it will be a problem. But
We're gonna hold it for you, Mel.
and none of the gentlemen who would be watching my live would ever say a thing like that. But there is a different standard for women. I mean that, and I'm sure
I mean, I'm gonna
we will
go ahead.
dedicate like 100 of our conversations to the patriarchy and the double standard for women. But it's very different for us to navigate in the world, right? Certainly not just in America, but in the world as women, and what we have to do looks different, right? Than it's going to look like for most men, for most folks who identify as male, living as a male, right?
Well,
Go
and
ahead.
I mean, I'm gonna say, like, I'm not gonna say that I'm with you, Mel, that I'm not gonna say that men may not be experiencing that, but I will tell you over and over again what I've seen from my perspective in coaching women is that, and in being a part of a lot of Facebook groups, is that men really, there isn't a hesitation for a lot of men. I'm not saying all, but for a large percentage, is like they may come home from work and are like, well, I'm going to go and work out, and they go and work out.
Mhm.
Even stay-at-home dads are, when if their partner is coming home, is like, well, I need a break and I'm going to go and do X, Y, and Z. So
Right.
the aspect of self-care is talked about, but I think that there's more of it. I think men in general, because of expectation, command that in a way that we don't command it, haven't. We're waiting for the approval to have that, and we need to take the approval. We shouldn't be waiting for somebody to say it's okay.
The
And if you're
permission.
waiting, the four of us here are saying it's okay. You have
Mhm.
got to command that time for yourself, because I will tell you, in my own journey, when I wasn't taking care of myself, I was not good for my friends, for my family, for
Yeah,
myself.
that's
And
real.
when I really when that all came to a head for me and I started taking care of myself, there are noticeable differences. Like, you know, like I can be there more. And we have this myth that if, for women, especially if the woman doesn't put everybody else before them, that for, you know, that you just can't be there for people. And that's
Right.
so wrong.
Yeah.
It's such not the right message to have out there.
Can I read a quote that I found today that I felt was pretty appropriate? And
Please.
it's by Audre Lorde. Love Audrey. And she said, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And
Mhm.
that is an act of political warfare.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take it back, ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and don't you think that's the case? And I'm sure, KJ, that you know, see this a lot in your practice as well, that there is this, I don't want to say inability, but there is this hesitation, I think, especially for women to claim whatever it is that they need, to stand in their power, even sometimes in women who, you know, maybe are what we would kind of label as like alpha women, right, who take charge of situations and blah blah blah. Again, why we have to label alpha, whatever. But don't you find that even in any kind of instance, that often women especially are very hesitant to fully embrace their own self-care and acknowledge, like, it's okay that I'm doing whatever.
Mel, read Fawn's comment
I
because
was just
it's,
about to say
Oh.
that.
I
Yeah.
was
it just goes right
Yay.
into what you just asked.
Yay. Let's see. Fawn says, my issue is because I have not been the breadwinner that I can't take time off.
Oof, it's so
Mm.
juicy. Oh.
So I'm gonna let KJ answer that, but before that, because you know I can't just leave it alone. Before that, I'm gonna say,
Please.
Fawn, you are amazing and wonderful. And if you need to take time off, freaking take time off. And if there's no breadwinner, there's no reason that you can't do whatever you need to do for you, period.
I think
No.
Fawn brings up a good point, which we even talk
Absolutely.
about from that
Yeah.
standpoint of that money somehow seems
Yes.
to equate to the more money I make, the more I should be
Mhm.
able to have a say, the
Yes.
more I should be able
Value,
to
authority.
do something.
Mhm.
Even in the entrepreneurial world, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
what is the measure of success? Well, how many figures are you making? And that's just BS. It's
Yeah.
just bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know the bread. So what I'm going to say is when you have a partnership with somebody,
Mhm.
and if the money is what's coming in the way, saying, well, I make the most money, so therefore I should be able to do X, Y, and Z, then there needs to be in my opinion, there needs to be a conversation in that partnership,
Mhm.
because everybody brings something to the table, and no one person can have a claim that their self-care is more important than somebody else's self-care.
Mhm.
Right.
At all. And this is in same-sex relationships too, because I'm sure that this
Oh, yeah.
goes on in same-sex relationships. And you
Oh,
know,
lesbians can be the worst.
I
get
don't
to
know,
say
but
that.
I'm
I get
just
to say
saying
that.
this
No.
is like I think that this issue of like, and again, I see this play out in all sorts of different forums. Like, you know, I've been away at work all day, and so therefore I deserve more time. Or I've been at home all day, and therefore I deserve more time. Well, everybody deserves the time
Mhm.
to be able
Right.
to regenerate and
Yeah.
regroup, and again, be there for
Regardless.
themselves. Yeah,
Regardless of what you were doing
Yeah,
all day long,
Mhm.
it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
You need what you need, period.
yeah.
I think there's along with that, there's a language and there needs to be a redefining and a reframing, because I know Fawn and her partner personally, actually. And so it's not I mean, it's a bigger conversation of like, how do we define time off? And is time off really time off? Or could it be just switching from one activity to another so that there's a pause and a chance to regenerate, as like Ishit said, is what can we do to replenish? And then is there judgment around it? And why do I feel bad for taking a shift or taking a pause? But it's so it's so juicy.
I know, right? Yeah.
Because yes, if we also associate it, like, I know the culture that we live in, the culture that we live in places value, a monetary value on success and growth and accomplishments. And so it's like permeated in us. I know we probably came out of the womb already with these things prescribed to us.
Yeah. As soon as we got that pink sticker on our,
or the pink bow,
and the pink bow, and I mean, and that's the thing. And I would say too, I mean, I don't know you, Fawn, personally. And I don't need to, frankly, to know that
You're
you're
amazing,
amazing, to know that you're wonderful,
Yeah.
right? To know that you are deserving. That doesn't require any knowledge, any foreknowledge on my behalf, right? The universe gives you that. That doesn't have shit to do with me or anybody else, right? And so I know how difficult that it can be to acknowledge that for yourself, to not, I can't even say not listen, to try to unlearn, because that's what it is, right? Unlearning the stories, right? And this is going to bring us all the way back to how we magical cartographers got together, was about undoing these stories that because I'm not the quote unquote breadwinner, I am not as deserving of fill in the blank, right? Because I'm a mom or a parent in general, because I'm whatever, I'm undeserving of whatever. That's all bullshit, right? That's something that has been fed to us, and there's this imbalance that we have to walk through life with. But I'm kind of directing this because of your question, Fawn, but regardless of, I'd be curious, because not just for you, but in general, I think so many, and I've fallen into this myself. I've told myself, because I'm not the breadwinner, I'm undeserving, right? It's not even about, and I want to be clear for anybody who's watching this, it's not even about like someone else necessarily telling you, like, you don't deserve that because you're not it's usually us, right?
I mean, like, I know if I told my husband I'm not deserving, he'd look at me and be like, what the hell's your problem?
Right.
I mean, it's my brain. It's my
Well,
own
it's what we've been
garbage.
taught.
Yeah.
Right. It's the stories
It's
that
the
we've been
trap.
fed.
Exactly.
Right. And so all of it is, and that's the thing. It's like, again, I don't, that's the disclaimer. I don't know Fawn or her partner. But this really is, I think so many of us have fallen into this. And again, certainly not just women, but especially for women, the moment that we come out, we are acculturated differently, male and female. However the doctor has identified you, you got that label the minute you came out of your mother's vagina. And from that point forward, we've been on different tracks, right? And as we get older, based on parenting and our own decisions in life, we can make some variances, but from the moment we come out, there are two different tracks that we are put on. And one track is, you can be anything, you can do anything. Yes, you are deserving of all the things, all the dreams, desires that you have. The other track is like, don't you want to make friends? Don't you want people to like you? Don't you want to have a family? Don't you want to like bring people together and love them and hug them and those types of things? And when you stray off of that path, suddenly it's like, oh, what is she doing?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Who told
there's
you
this
you could have be
exclusiveness about
deserving?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need
like,
to apologize. You
Yeah.
need to not talk so loud. You need
Mhm.
to, yeah,
Yeah.
all the
So,
things.
And what we do to each other. So like,
oh
you know,
yeah.
let's be real. A lot of women, the conversation, and Vaughn, I never thought that like it was just, you know, your partner's telling you all of this. It really is just what we are inner story. So
Yeah.
I think I don't know you and I don't know Matt, but you guys are lovely people because you know KJ. So but you know, as women, we are harsh on each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we will, you know, I'm sure each one of us in this room and who's watching has a story about being judged by another woman,
Oh,
and like
yeah.
very outwardly so, and
Yeah.
being called out, and they're like, what, like, live
Yeah.
your life, I'm going to be living my life.
Right.
Although we don't say that at the time, we come to
Right.
this realization after, you know, after a while. So
Yeah.
you know, it is what, why is that? I don't know.
That's what we,
Yeah.
again, I'm just gonna keep
That's a
going
great
back
question.
to the
I wish I knew I'd be
patriarchy,
a
Fawn.
multi-good gajillionaire.
Fawn, listen, Fawn, you're gonna make us have this discussion about patriarchy and what, you know,
Yeah.
all the things. But I mean, literally, again, I can only speak to the US. I've never lived in another country. But that is what we are taught. We are taught that this is how men act. This is how women act. And anything that does not fall into the structure that has been created, that we have been acculturated into, is wrong.
Is abnormal and wrong. Yep.
And when you hear something enough times, right? I mean, ladies, tell me the name of the book. I mean, the author of the book, Patriarchy Stress Disorder.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
we'll
my
get back
gosh,
to
I
it.
don't know why I can't think of her name.
I can't think of the name
But I
either.
mean,
We're
essentially,
still
you
riled
know,
up.
what's that? We
I said
all
we're
own the
so
book.
excited about it. So
Right, yeah.
It's
Patriarchy
there.
Stress Disorder, right? Pick one, and yes, on her shelf.
It's somewhere in there on that
Right.
shelf.
But I mean, definitely I recommend everybody reading that book. But I mean, the idea is that we are it's so ingrained in us. These teachings are so ingrained in us that any deviation, right? Even if we know, like, common sense tells us this doesn't seem like the right thing, we question ourselves, right? Because I mean, it's just like anything. If you were raised in a Christian household and suddenly you're questioning if, you know, is God real? There's a little voice inside of you like, oh my God, you're going to hell.
Mhm.
And why would you even ask that question?
Mhm.
Right. This is the same thing we're seeing now about, you know, race in America, right? So all of these things have been so ingrained in our systems, regardless of how, you know, liberal our parents might be, or any of that has nothing to do with it, right? This is just like a blanket on top of all of us
Well, and we're
that takes a
questioning
lot of
reality.
work. Yeah.
Even a question of basic reality.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, I think that because we're not having enough of these conversations, right? Even with people that we love, right? And honestly, even with ourselves, where we're allowing ourselves to say, why am I thinking about whatever in that way, right? Why am I telling myself that I'm not deserving of a vacation or time off? Why am I telling myself, again, fill in the blank, when you're not questioning yourself, right? You're not even opening the door for something else,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I mean, I was saying to Jocelyn the other day, there's a woman who's been on, I mean, she's been around for a long time. I'm new to her, Rachel K. Albers. Is that how you pronounce her name?
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, look her up on Instagram, certainly. But what's fascinating to me is that, you know, she has been, you know, and Jocelyn can better kind of give the background on who she is, but she's been going through this, what has been labeled, right, by a lot of folks as like manic behavior, right?
Mhm.
And because we all want to buy into that narrative that women are supposed to act a certain way. And if a woman is out there like telling details of her problems or oversharing, right, that there must be something wrong with her. And so I was watching one of her, you know, longer videos, and she was, you know, talking about like all these things that have happened. And I fell into that trap of like, oh man, poor baby, she really is like in a spiral, right? And then I had to stop and say to myself, like, well, why do I think that? Because she's expressing herself in a way that, you know, isn't traditional.
She's angry.
Shit, I'm doing the same thing, right? I
Yep.
instantly also labeled her. And once I was able to stop myself and recognize it, I mean, I could hear her in an entirely different way. And that's just like one example of one thing in one day. But this is every day, all day long, the conditioning that we have to question constantly.
And manic has become the modern catchphrase for hysterical.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's what you used to call women was, oh, she's
Right.
hysterical. It's a condition.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with her.
At least we
Too
got vibrators
emotional.
out of that.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
exactly.
Come on,
Guys,
Ish, you know, you're the doctor in the group. If it wasn't for men
We needed an
mislabeling
anatomy
us,
lesson
we
today.
might never have vibrators. Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
Hopefully
exactly.
hopefully my daughter's not still
Hey,
watching,
get
but
into
you know,
some
she's
That's
like,
another Netflix TV show.
It is. Yeah.
You know, I want to say, you know, I mean, this is like really, it's conditioning. Like I remember back in college, I was going for a leadership position, and somebody, a female, a woman, came up to me and said, well, you know, people really look at you as like being confrontational. And so like, it, you know, and I was, you know, it still pisses me off. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I'm confrontational. I'm like, what does that mean? And there was no context. There was no like example. There wasn't, I'm like, well, if I've done something to somebody, they should come and talk to me about it. But I recognize that at the end of the day, what it is I say oftentimes things that people don't like to hear.
Right.
And what, you know, to silence me, and this is what we do to women, is like, let's use these words, because
Right.
again, the conditioning is that we're going to go deep. So this is what women do. They go deep. They start thinking, well, what did I do? And is this true? And like, I didn't want to hurt anybody, and this, that, or the other. And I should have been just like, well, whatever, and walked away. But I didn't know at that time, you know, to really do that. It was pretty young, and I didn't want to make waves or hurt people's feelings. By the way, I won that leadership position. So
Atta girl.
I mean, yeah, because you're a badass.
confrontation, you know, but
Yes.
Yeah, you
it's
did.
those kinds of things. But I still
Yeah.
think about when I am in a meeting or I have to do things. I think I do. It like runs through my mind. Am I being confrontational?
Right.
Am I being too emotional? So if my voice goes up, or if I show any sort of emotion,
Yeah.
it's not considered, you know, it's considered being emotional. It's not considered being passionate,
Right.
you know. And oftentimes I'll see, well, you know, when, you know, if a guy gets up there and gives this, well, that was a passionate speech.
Right.
If a woman gives up a passionate speech, is why she's so angry. And I'm like, what
She's
is
so
it about?
emotional.
Why is
Yeah.
she
You know.
hysterical?
Why
Yeah.
exactly? Why is she
Yeah.
hysterical?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
as the official crier, I will always get the like, oh, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. I'm pissed. Like
Yeah.
I can cry if I want to cry.
Oh,
I
my
cry if I'm happy,
goodness.
if I'm angry, if I'm
Great, yeah.
sad, all the things. You
Yeah.
know?
Fun. Yeah,
Fawn,
exactly.
my heart aches for you being told that, but it just goes to show we're all told those things. We scare people. We do scare people because we have power,
Yeah.
and people don't want it. So we live in a world where it's or. There's not an and.
Exactly.
Like what I hope we're able to do, the
Yes.
4 of us, with just being here, is that all 4 of us are similar in some ways, but we're very different too in a lot of ways. And we don't have to be the KJ show or the Mel show or the Jocelyn show or the Ish show. This is, we can be all of those shows and we can be this show together.
That's
Yeah,
right.
So
and
we
the
need
fawn
to start
show.
thinking about and.
That's right. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be or. Somebody doesn't have to lose something for
Right.
somebody else to gain something.
Absolutely.
We don't have to lose something by taking care of ourselves.
Yes.
We gain by doing that.
That's
Yeah.
right. There isn't a scarcity.
Oh, am I too
We're just gonna
passionate
run
about
out.
this now?
Don't get hysterical, Ish.
Yeah, come on
about-
now, Ish. But I see the scholarship winner here.
Right.
And how long ago did that happen?
Yeah.
This was in college.
Yeah, exactly. I was told I was loud once. And it's like, and I still think, am I being too loud? And it's like, who cares? I have to check that inner thought. Oh, I'm loud. Oh, am I? And now I'm like, now I'm old enough to say, well, who cares if I'm loud?
Right.
But there was a time that it was like, oh, I'm being loud. I have to.
Oh
Be,
yeah.
I have to be smaller. I have to be
Yes.
quieter.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm like, yeah, fuck you. It's like,
Yeah. Well, and I think, yeah, and like so many things, I mean, in life that the more we buy into it or not, the more it affects people. Like, I think about like the whole idea of coming out in the gay community, right? I mean, some people have, involved and dramatic coming out stories. And I totally understand everyone is a little bit different and their situations. For me, there was no coming out story. Like my daughters were preteens. I had a conversation when I started dating my first girlfriend. Other than that, everybody just got introduced to my new girlfriend, right? I didn't allow anybody to tell me or to question, well, what do you, no,
no,
this
my
isn't about
girlfriend.
you. This is about me, right? And it's the same thing, in these situations where, we're too loud, or of course I was too talkative. And then I raised 2 daughters who were also too talkative, and, just too much. Again, society says that women are supposed to be quiet, like community builders. And men are supposed to be the one who are out there and gregarious and hoorah, right? And so when the reverse happens, either way, right? If men are the community loving, emotional, like, oh, he must be gay, right? Oh, why is he so,
Why is that?
right? And so, I mean, this conditioning has, like, we have to, it's not even like, wouldn't it be nice? No, I feel like we're at a inflection point right now where we have to stop, right? We have to stop ourselves from perpetuating these stereotypes, from allowing these things to happen. First within, right? That self-care piece is, how can I stop myself from lying to myself, right? I mean, this is a term that I use a lot with my clients, is very frankly, like, stop lying to yourself, right? Stop, I mean, and we all do it in a variety of ways, but reminding yourself consistently to stop and reflect on what you're saying, what you're thinking, however you're feeling, whenever those issues of like questioning who you are. Am I being too much of whatever? Am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? Am I undeserving? All those times you absolutely have to stop and say, wait a minute, where did this lie come from? And why am I hanging on to it?
Yes.
And it's the unconscious perpetuation of a system of control that needs to keep us afraid so it can stay in power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom.
Watched The Handmaid's
Mic drop.
Tale. If
Yeah,
you watched
well,
The
yeah.
Handmaid's Tale,
Yeah.
right, or read the books, or read the book, well, I guess technically there were 2 of them, but whenever I've watched that, and I mean, my undergrad degree is in cultural anthropology, so I read that book a long time ago, And there was never a point in which it was like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine that happening.
No,
Right.
never.
It's
ever.
like, oh yeah, I could see that.
Well, you're all so
Right?
excited about this now, and it's like, what's new about this?
Right. And I mean, really, if you stop and think about it, right? If you haven't watched the show, again, I'm going to tell you to go watch the show. But from the very beginning, like the way that they kind of explained, right, why things were changing, instantly, there was no question that the men, right, I'm going to be clear here, the white men, right? I mean, I love you white men, but you are often the problem.
Yeah.
And we need you to be better. And we're happy to talk to you about being better.
And then if there was a story, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Mel
just
is really, Mel is happy. Mel's
I'm
very
sorry.
happy with this
Yes.
conversation.
I mean,
no, and here's the thing. I because I want to reiterate this is what you pointed out, Mel. Let's have the conversation.
Yeah.
I want to have the conversation.
And that's all
because I do feel that a lot of it, regardless of whether, you know, we're women or men, or we don't identify with other, because let's be real here. There are people who don't identify with being a woman or a man, right? Is that there's so many things that have been imposed upon both genders, upon colors, upon just everything, that to keep us apart, to keep us not belonging. But once we are born into this world, we belong. We are interconnected in so many ways.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's the culture. I mean, it's all of us.
Yeah. And Fawn makes another great point. You know, she talks about, you know, being skinny and like, you know, as a way, you know, and it's like sort of speaking to this. I want to read this comment because it's Fawn, it's great. You said, this is why the skinny thing is happening. The skinnier the women are, the more accepted, less threatening if you are skin and bones. And I would add to that the more that people can keep us focused on what kind of bodies we have, then they're preventing us from coming to the table.
That's right. That's
well,
right.
I am at the damn table.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, sometimes I'm not at the table, and it's very purposeful. So when people are like, why are you not sitting at the table? I'm like, there's a reason I'm not sitting at the table.
Yes.
It's not because I'm scared of you. It's because I'm making a point.
Yes, because my absence will be missed.
Yeah, and you are taking, that is your voice. That is you taking a stand or advocating by that action, by not being a part and perpetuating that conversation. I wanted to share with you before, if we ran out of time and or before I forget it, because both could be possible. You may have heard this book. It's called Burnout. Take that book down. It's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, and I can put that in the chat. They're sisters.
It's a good book.
The fantastic book. It's a fantastic book, and they speak about this, about the bikini industrial complex, which has essentially been this man-made, created advertising component meant to keep us small. Yeah. And then they say like simple, wonderful things. So they're both scientists, and the book is about how women completely move through a stress cycle, move through the cycles of stress and emotional care completely different than the males. And so it's written by these two women who are sisters, and they're identical twins. And so they're able to say things like, me as Emily, I felt this, but my identical twin sister had a completely different experience. Right. So it's back down to every person is individual. How dare we put this like cookie cutter template on them and say, be that, right? Be that. And even people as closely aligned as twin sisters can be like, or not, right? You know? So there's a sentence here that I wanted just to read, which I think is fantastic, which is that, girls at 10, 8, even 6 years old already believe their bellies are supposed to be flat and hard, so they hold their stomachs in. You cannot breathe deeply all the way if you don't relax your abdomen, and you can't sing if you can't breathe. So relax your belly, it's supposed to be round.
I love it. Yeah.
Right. But if you are too, I love what you had just said, Ish or Jocelyn, all of us, where we couldn't possibly come to the table, or we couldn't be considered a reliable authority if we're too busy, first of all, trying to breathe, trying to eat and not passing out from starving ourselves,
Right.
or wondering if we look okay to come to the table.
Right.
I mean, it's all a part of this big,
Yeah.
like farce
Yeah.
of keeping and controlling the ladies.
Yeah.
So
And to Ish's point, we do it to ourselves, right? Because again, we've all been part of the same system where this is how we're supposed to behave, and now you want to go astray and do your own thing. Wait a minute, how does that affect me? Maybe that doesn't affect me in a great way, so I need to pull you back down, right?
yes.
So yeah, I mean, it's so many pieces to that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was trying to read your comment.
So many conversations.
So
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
conversations.
I want that to be a conversation. The skinny thing is happening.
Right. It was just, yeah. Yeah. And not being enough in general, right, is, if we circle this back to, self-care and the need, I mean, all the things that we talked about today are the reasons in which we have to make self-care a priority for us, right? Because society's not going to do it for us. Nobody's going to magically come in and be like, hey, I know you don't know me, but I'm going to clean your house and watch your kids and pay to send you off on a vacation, right? That magical being is not showing up to your house ever, right? I've been waiting. That bitch is not coming. I don't know where he is, but so we have to do it for ourselves. We have to be able to say, you know what, this is important to me. This 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, an hour, whatever it is, it's mine. I deserve it. I'm going to do whatever I want to, and I'm going to use that time to just reset, right? Or do nothing, or whatever it is that makes you feel good, that brings you some amount of joy. And joy also doesn't have to look like, yay, rainbows and butterflies, right? I mean, I want to be clear about that too. Joy should feel like that. It doesn't always look like that on the outside, right? And that's okay. That's okay. Whatever it is that you need is okay. And that's what self-care is to me.
And to piggy off of that, self-care is, so I want to really just keep in mind that I know that we're talking a lot about self-empowerment, and I also want to recognize that I think the four of us have gone through a lot of deconditioning in ways that maybe other people haven't. And so one of the things about self-care is that if you are feeling like, I wish I could do whatever, and you're feeling like this, your internal pushback, I really strongly suggest surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, who will tell you, do that for yourself. Those are the people that really love you,
Absolutely.
who want the best for you. And we need to surround ourselves with people who will support us and stretch us and call us out on our crap shit.
Yeah.
If you want to,
Yeah.
if you don't like me cursing, then use the word crap. If you do like me cursing, we'll use the word shit. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I don't, it's not easy. Okay. I mean, I am almost 50 years old. In a year, a little over a year, I'm going to be 50 years old. And I have gone through my own set of stuff. And so I am not saying this lightly, and I'm not saying this as if as if it's easy, because it is not. I mean, I've just gotten down to, I don't remember, a few weeks ago I was telling you ladies, like, here's my current definition. I was born in a certain day and time with the stars and everything aligned a certain way. I was born in XX and everything else has been imposed upon me.
Yeah.
And that's just, I still have a lot of things to uncondition.
Mhm.
And that is part of the reason for these conversations that we're having.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the self-care is not one bubble bath or one whatever. It's a
Right.
continual, it's just constantly keep self-caring.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's what we do for a lot of us. So yeah, I mean, Fawn, you found us.
You found us.
You-
I mean,
you found-
and many people
found us when you
online.
needed us.
Yes, many people online are watching too. Thank you so much. I haven't seen any specific questions. But yeah, and again, I mean, we are determined to have these conversations, to continue these conversations. And they're, you know, they're not always going to feel good. They're not always going to, you know, make us feel good at the end of the day. I mean, it's going to feel good to say what's on our minds and on our hearts, but we have to have these conversations, right? And you are here to hear them when you need to hear them. So if you weren't here live with us today, but you see this down the road, that's when you needed to hear this piece of conversation, right? And to KJ's point, you know, part of finding your people, right, is says, you know, find your people, you know, start with us. That's what we're here for, right? We wholeheartedly, I won't say regardless of our businesses, because we each have our own businesses that also need this, right? This is fueling us as individuals and as business owners, right, in our businesses. But this is so important to who we are as people, that we need you to co-create with us. We need you to have these conversations. We need you to come in and say, like, I heard you say this thing and I call bullshit. Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what happened last week when we had this conversation in Clubhouse. And that's great. I mean, that's what we have to do. Again, I like talking, but I will never say I'm always right, you know, and I don't need to be right all the time, but I need to have conversations. I need for us all to better understand one another and how we can serve each other. And that's really what we are doing as magical cartographers. That's really our goal here, is to create conversations and spaces and eventually events. I'm putting that out into the universe where it isn't about, you know, how can we sell you a bunch of stuff? It really is about, like, how can we help each other be a little bit more whole?
Yeah. And I just want to, I appreciate, Fawn, you so much. You've had such great questions
Yes,
and
thank
points.
you
And
so
that's the
much.
thing. We are not the expert. I just want you to know that you are an expert as well. And you just
Yes.
showed it today.
Yeah.
And we want to support that. So I know you said, I wish I could have met you guys earlier. Well, you met us now, but you didn't need to meet us because you're amazing. So if we can give you voice, that's, yeah, thank you for joining in on this conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Thank
Ladies, do you have any parting thoughts, messages that you would like to leave? KJ, why don't we start with you? Because I happen to be looking at your lovely face right now.
Okay. I always, you guys are so articulate and brilliant.
Oh gosh. In between my rants, okay.
Exactly. It's these rants, though, that bring out the gems and these treasures that are not unearthed enough, certainly. And so that, I think that's my parting thought, which is, let's continue to excavate and explore and uncover, unlearn, untell. We had said our first meeting was like untelling the stories.
Yes. Yeah.
I urge us to continue doing that, because look at the treasure that just emerges in this hour, what we've uncovered, and I want to continue it. And so I did want to say, that's what I did want to say, is that we are doing this. We have set the second and fourth Tuesday
Yeah.
of the month
Mhm.
for us to continue conversations like this. So if
Yes.
all of you are watching or just finding us now, come find us, and we're doing it. We're going to
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. Jocelyn, I'm looking at you. Any parting words?
Find a table and dance on it.
Yes.
Don't just go to it, dance on it.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna pause for the cause. As someone who injures themselves frequently, make sure please
A low
it's a
table.
stable table.
It could be a stable low table.
It can be a big table. Just check it. Just shake it a little bit first.
Yeah.
Yes, Ish. How about you?
No, I just really appreciative to be able to have this conversation and move and be a part of something to move beyond the conditioning and be able to talk about it. So I just, my parting words are, just keep coming back and join the conversation. Bring your friends. There's a lot. I have a lot still left to learn, and these are the kind of conversations I want to have. So those are my parting words.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that I ranted enough today. Just, really take the time to think about yourself and what you need. Make a plan, right? At this new moon in Taurus, set your intentions to make more time for whatever brings you joy, whatever you feel like you need more of. Make a plan for it. Don't just think about it and wish for it and hope that it happens. Make a plan for it. And as KJ said, we will be back again every second and fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. We will be here. We will be many places. Keep an eye out individually. We all do magical shit all across the country. Check us out individually. If you have questions and you didn't get a chance to join us live and you're watching this later, you have a question, pop it in here. We will get back to you. And yeah, just thank you so much for being here and for being a part of this and bringing your amazing energy to the work that we're doing. So we will see you soon. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.